Hello, this is Dread, and in this video we will be showcasing my Clear Speed Necromancer, mainly meant for monolith farming. Now, this build is utilizing all of the best range projectile minions, mainly the Skeleton Archers and Skeleton Mages, mainly the Cryomancer Skeleton Mages and the Fire Arrow Skeleton Archers. So I kind of saw everyone else's Necromancer's builds, and I kind of didn't really like them because they were all kind of single target focused, or they were kind of just bad overall. And I had a viewer recently ask me to make a good Necromancer build, and well, I really hate minion builds, so I kind of took it up to myself to try to give minions a new chance here. So this build's not necessarily bad at all. Like, in terms of minion builds, it's one of the best I've ever played. Other than the Reflect Necromancer, obviously, that was pretty overpowered. But this one is a lot more clear speed focused, meaning that you'll be able to clear monoliths a lot faster thanks to the large amount of projectiles that these minions give you. But with that being said, let's get into the skills, shall we? All right, for the first skill, we have Summon Skeleton. So we do take 3 points travel into Unholy Rage to give us movement speed and attack speed, and it also allows us to travel to Lone Guardian, which limits our warriors to 1, which is a travel point, and it gives us increased critical strike chance. And then it also allows us to move to Mightier Than the Sword, which removes skeleton warriors from the pool so we can focus on skeleton archers. And then we go down here to Fire Arrow. It allows us to shoot a fire arrow instead, which is simply just something that deals physical and fire, and it ignites on hit. The ignite doesn't really matter for our build specifically, but you could build around that with a different build. Now, it does have a 6-second cooldown by default, but we are going to be taking 3 points into multi-shot to increase the cooldown to 9 seconds, but we also get 7 arrows per attack, meaning that we get a lot of AoE. Now, of course, in game here, I can showcase this. We have a skeleton archer here, and we're going to have it attack the dummy. And as you can tell, that's a lot of projectiles that we're getting. Now, of course, then we take 1 point into Marrow Walkers, so we can summon an additional skeleton. Then we take 4 points into Necrotic Conviction for 60% more damage. We want as much damage as possible with this build. Then, of course, we take 1 point into Hollow Walkers for another skeleton. And then we take 1 point travel into Bone Armor. This actually does nothing thanks to the fact that we are using skeleton archers and we're disabling skeleton warriors. But it's just a travel point so that we can get to the increased cooldown recovery speed, which counts for every single skeleton. Now, the reason why we're grabbing this cooldown recovery speed is because if we go back to Fire Arrow here, it'll decrease the cooldown by, since it's 9, it'll bring it all the way down to like about 4 seconds-ish. And of course, with extra idols, we can get that down even further. Then, of course, we have skeleton mages here. We are turning them into cryomancers, so we are taking 5 points into Gravetide for the adaptive spell damage, which then gets turned to cold spell damage thanks to cryomancers. They cast an ice shard instead. The only reason why we do this is because ice shards have a lot of projectile speed, and they also have a bigger hitbox, I believe, than the base projectile that skeleton mages shoot out. Then, of course, we have 1 point into Frostlich to remove mages and pyromancers from the pool, so we only get cryomancers in the pool. Then, of course, we go all the way over here and get to Splintered Dominion so that we get an extra 100% increased projectile chance. So we are shooting 3 projectiles per mage, which is very strong, as it allows them to assist in our AoE clear. And since our mages are mainly our single target, they will be doing a lot of damage. Then, of course, we take 2 points into Argonautic Speed. The attack speed and cast speed there, as you can tell, are multiplicative with other modifiers, meaning that they attack 10% more fast than, obviously, with these 2 points. Then, of course, we go down here for 3 points into Stellar Mortis. For 9% base critical strike chance, this also allows them to crit a lot more, and it allows them to obviously do a lot more damage on single target than our archers. Then, of course, we have movement speed as well, which is insane because being able to move faster is insane for these kind of minions. Then, of course, we take 3 points into Gray Merchant, so we gain 15% of its maximum health on crit. Absolutely insane, since I believe he has up to an 80% crit chance right now with this build, and obviously some critical strike multiplier. And of course, 1 point into Order of Death so that you can summon more skeleton mages. And that'll be it for Skeleton Mage. Alright, we have Transplant here. So we take 3 points into Acolyte's Fervor for more cast speed. Then we take 3 points into Bone Armor to take less damage and have a little bit of armor. Armor doesn't really matter though. Then of course we take 2 points into Plated Bone, so for Blown Armor effect, raising up that less damage taken to about like 14 to 15%. Then of course we go down here and take Apostasy so that our Bone Armor lasts longer. Then of course we take 1 point into Drink Deep so that all the health costs that we use on our transplant is regenerated back, making it so that we have a little bit more life gain overall. And of course we go down here and we take Last Laugh so that we get 60% increased minion damage, obviously, so that we get more minion damage. Increased minion damage is really hard to come by with this build, so this is very strong. And of course for utility, we take 2 points into Scarlet Rain to make the detonations bigger, 1 point into Ethereal Body as a travel point, then of course 1 point into Squeamish, and then 1 point into Thanatophobia so that we get all the fearing, so that if something's on our grill, we can transplant away and they'll get feared away so that they stop attacking and aggroing on us. Alright, we have Rip Blood here. We take 5 points into Hemomancer. Then, of course, for cast speed, so that we're faster casting. Then, of course, we take 1 point into Stench of Blood, which is pretty much the same as utilizing the A key to prioritize minions attacking a target. But the beautiful thing about Rip Blood, as you can see, is like you can kind of just hold right click and it will auto target enemies because that's how Rip Blood works. It's a lot better than using the A button, in my opinion. You also get mana and HP back as you use it, so why not? The A button is better though for when you're trying to move minions around. Well, this is a lot better for getting your minions to attack things. Then now we take 3 points into Thirst so that our mana cost for Rip Blood is 0 because we are not utilizing a weapon that gives us -3 mana cost, so we obviously need to utilize this. Also gives us more cast speed. Then, of course, we take 6 points into Quenching, so the Blood Orb travel speed is faster, so we get our HP back faster, and also gives us a little bit more HP back. We take 3 points into Mana Feast. This is the main way we can sustain our mana while we're summoning our skeletons, obviously. And, of course, we take 1 point into Hematology. This is kind of just a dump point. It doesn't really matter. We don't have that much intelligence. Just gives us a little bit more increased health restored. Then 1 point travel into Splatter. Doesn't really matter. You could put this point anyways. Really doesn't matter. And then we have Dreadshade, one of the most important parts of the build. So we take 3 points into Lingering Doom Travel because we are turning our drain into an Everlasting Poison instead. The Everlasting Poison does a lot less damage than the drain from Dreadshade, which is really good for us because it allows Dreadshade not to instantly kill our minion. Then, of course, we go into 4 points into Spectral Presence so that when I place the thing on a minion, the AoE covers all of my minions. Then, of course, I take 4 points into Grim Fate for another 100% increased area and another 60% more damage. So we're dealing like another 85% more damage with Grim Fate. Very strong. And of course, we take 1 point into Symbiotic Apparition so that we're affected by the cast speed, as you'll see later on, which is what we're going to talk about now. The Dying Coven, which gives us 45% increase in cast, attack, and cast speed, which is very strong for our minions and us, obviously. Then of course we take 3 points into Flesh Harvest, so we get increased buff effect. This is a more multiplier to all the other modifiers on the tree as minions lose health, which is very strong because our minion's going to be dying anyways. And of course we take 1 point into Wisdom of the Dead, so we get a little bit more mana efficiency with Dreadshade. And that's it for the skills. Alright, here we are with the passives and the mastery. So we are taking 8 points into Blood Aura for increased minion damage, as we're not, since we're scaling global minion damage, as all of our base types are all over the place with this build. 1 point into Stolen Vitality for travel, 5 points into Dark Rituals for the increased attack and cast speed for our minions and us as well after we use a minion skill. Then of course 1 point travel into Mania of Mortality. Then of course 5 points into Unnatural Preservation for more ward retention, for more resistance mainly. And of course we go Necromancer. Necromancer gives us an extra skeleton mage, increased damage. Then we take 8 points into Risen Army for increased minion damage and increase in minion attack and cast speed, pretty obvious. 1 point into Grave Thorns for travel, 1 point into Blood Armor for travel. Then we take 10 points into Mortal Tether to give us more increased HP, 1 point into Unbound Necromancy for the extra skeleton, 4 points into Unearthed Arms for travel and for more damage, flat damage for minion bow attacks, then 3 points travel into Tyrant, 5 points into Effigy gives us damage and makes it so that our minions we can consume our minions to heal ourselves, which is very strong. Then of course 5 points into Frantic Summons for more attack and cast speed. Then we take 10 points into Moonlight Pyre for a lot of flat damage. This is where a lot of our damage comes from. And of course 5 points into River of Bones, giving us more crit and giving our minions leeches life when they crit. Then of course 10 points into Rite of Undeath for resistance and more increased damage for the respective types given us by Moonlight Pyre. And of course 2 points into Tyrant's Legions for more skeletons, 1 point into Disciples of Necromancy, 5 points into Vein of Malice for the haste and frenzy, 50% uptime pretty much on it. Then of course we're going to finish out with Blades of the Forlorn. Alright, here we are for the gearing and the idols, so let's go over the idols. So mainly what we want for idols is crit chance mainly. Mainly a lot of crit chance, obviously. We obviously want some more crit chance, and then we're going for a little bit of cooldown recovery speed so that our archers shoot their fire arrows more often, but don't sweat it. Mainly you want the crit chance though, like all the crit chance, right? And of course for required unique items, I would say that Death Rattle is pretty required as it gives us most of your minion critical strike multiplier, and we are building into minion dodge, so we do not need to worry about them taking increased damage. And of course we take 1 point into Reach of the Grave so that we take Reach of the Grave so that our minions have a way of leeching back their life as well when they're not critting. Obviously we have all that other leech, so this isn't as necessary. You could use an Eric's Bones, you could use a sword with percentage dodge on it. There's a lot of options, but I opted in for Reach of the Grave to make my minions a little bit more tanky. And of course we take we go for resistance and critical strike chance on our helmet and dodge. On our chests we take base critical strike chance. This is very important. You really want this, and you want as much minion dodge as possible. Increased health doesn't really matter as we're going to just get one shot anyways. Then of course on our shield we take dodge, res, minion dodge, and minion health. Mainly minion dodge is very important. Like I said, minion health isn't as important. And of course on our rings we take resistance and dodge. On our belt, dodge potion and dodge percentage and dodge. On our other ring, resistance and dodge, obviously. So I did get pretty lucky with this pair of gloves. We got minion dodge, resistance dodge, and increased minion health, tier 6 minion health. Obviously, you don't need this tier 6 minion health. Your minions will be fine as it is with the minion dodge. I just thought I'd use it because I dropped an actually halfway decent exalted item for once. And of course, minion dodge, movement speed, and dodge percentage on your boots. Obviously, for the last suffix, you'll want dodge. And of course, for the relic, I do have a tier 6 minion dodge. For some reason, I dropped it as well. Pretty shitty rolls otherwise. Gives us a little bit of dodge and more minion dodge, obviously, right? Very strong. And that's it for the gearing. Like I said, in the description below will be a full gear planner, full build planner, and that will be where you can get the actual, just the POB of this. All right, and that's pretty much it for this as well. Alright, and that will be it for my build guide. For a full build planner, I would suggest going down below in the description, and it will be there. That will also have my Twitch, which I suggest you follow, as you can catch me live and catch me building builds live before you get to see the video. Then, of course, as well, in the description will be my Discord server where I hang out when I make my builds, so you guys can ask questions and ask all the things you could ever possibly want to know about my builds and what I do to make them. And of course, as well, with that being said, I would suggest to like, comment, and subscribe if you've made it this far and you enjoy the video, as it helps the channel out. And this has been Dread from Last Epic Builds. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and bye!